defines what's happening in India? Sorry, free. Yeah, that is 65 years ago. Fear, certainly. Anything else? Sorry, foul. Okay. Fire. Okay, how about the letter fast? Fast? Anna Hazare goes on. Given the state of scams, this government wants to make a fast buck. The slowdown is happening. Fast. Take a look at the Olympics. It will tell you that our athletes are anything but. And competition is also happening fast. Last evening, I was in a conference with some global thinkers, and we came upon a conclusion that India has become a state of G-strings. G-strings? 2 Gs. Graft and grant. When you come across graft, you have another spate of Gs. You have the 2G, the CWG, the KG, and now of course with Colgate, you have a CG. And when you come to grant, you have what the Congress party would say, a G family. Also, you have G Hazuri. But all that's changed. Suddenly, we're informed because we have a state of reforms. FDI. It's not foreign direct investment. It's fiercely debating Indians. We're always debating. And finally, we have those reforms. Retail means the farmers now, they don't suffer from malnutrition, they suffer from malnutrition. Right? Diesel is becoming expensive. It's time to switch over to Tommy Hilfiger. Right? And with the diesel brand getting more expensive, you have Kingfisher that's begun to fish for a lot of things. So, we come to our third G, which Indians are known for. Guts and grit. And that becomes the epitome, the cornerstone to fight competitiveness under the aegis of strategy as well as a unique value proposition. Who better to tell us that than Dr. Amit Kapoor, a professional I've admired for several years, a man who's the honorary chairman of the Institute of Competitiveness, who's done an enormous amount of research, and if there's anybody who you'd want to compete with, is Dr. Kapoor.
Good afternoon, all of you.
All right, we'd like to call on stage now Anurag Batra, Chairman, Editor-in-Chief, Exchange for Media. Vishesh Chandiok, National Managing Partner, Grant Thornton. Christopher Doyle, Managing Director, Dynamic Results. Panindra Sharma, CEO, Redbus. Ashwin Nayak, CEO, Vatsalya. And Tonmoy Shingal, CEO of Metal. You know, when you're in competition, there are 3 stages which make you wondrous. The first stage is when you start out addressing competition. And that's when you see wonders happen. The second stage is when you actually start addressing competition. And that's when you make wonders happen. And finally, when competition hits you, you wonder what happened. So you've got to address that. Anurag, perhaps you're the best person to suggest that.
Thank you, Chetan. Being the first panel, we have an envious task of making sure that we start this.
Our next panel to come on stage, Shondeep Das, Director ASL and CEO Maxis Communication. Venkatesh Valluri, Chairman President Ingersoll Rand. Sunanda Sharma, Country President Alstom, Amitabh Chaudhary, CEO HDFC Life, Rana Kapoor, MD and CEO of Yes Bank, and an editor, a personal favorite, somebody I respect a lot, Shukumar Ranganathan, editor of Mint. Okay, while they're making up, a quick question. How many of you play the stock markets? How many of you play the stock markets? How many of you don't play the stock markets? How many of you do nothing? Okay, how many of you don't play the stock markets? Good to know there's some rich people out here. I had the fortune of being invited, in fact chosen to interview Warren Buffett in his first live interview in Delhi, in India for that matter. And I started by asking him a simple question, and that is that the first question, how do you make a capital of 1 million in the stock markets? How do you make a capital of 1 million in the stock markets? Mr. Buffett's reply, start with a capital of 2 million. His question then, what's the long-term investment in the capital markets? What's the long-term investment in the capital markets? My answer, a short-term investment that's gone bad. If you hold on to it, it becomes a long-term investment. That's the stock markets. But in terms of strategy, it's a long-term strategy that makes a short-run strategy look bad. And that's where you've got to use trade-offs. A trade-off in the stock market is something that gets you off the market, but as a strategy and a choice, it's something that puts you there. It makes you address the 4 P's in strategy, which mean price, a product, service, position, perception, and finally the principal, competitor. Those are all the cards that you've got to master. For everything else, there's a MasterCard. Right? Shukumar, all yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me? No? Okay. I guess I'll have to use this.
Thank you very much, Amit. All right, I'll take 2 more minutes in case you're wondering why, because you've got to set up that table. They say it takes a lot of noise, more noise than me. Okay, I heard one comment which is very intriguing in the panel discussion, I think the one before last, which said that I need to do this to kill competition. The question, do we really need to kill competition? After all, there's something called healthy competition, which motivates us. So perhaps we can blunt competition, we can beat them, but not necessarily kill them or finish them. Finish brings me to the English language. Another question. What do we journalists do? Just ask questions. What's the difference between finish and complete? Anybody? If you know the answer, don't say it. What's the difference between finish and complete? Sounds similar, right? Okay. Nobody? Good. If you're in a good marriage, you're complete. If you're in a bad marriage, you're finished. And if your wife gets to know that you feel you're in a bad marriage, you're completely finished. Now, in terms of competitiveness, if you're very competitive and successful, you're complete. If you're not competing well, you're finished. And if your competition is killing you, you're completely finished. That's the ethos of our next panel discussion. How is it that you beat competition with that one unique value proposition? We've got 5 great minds and 1 not so great mind out here to discuss that. A quick introduction for each of you. Carl, first tell us how to mispronounce your name.
Well, my high school principal asked me that question a long time ago. Let's just go with Arndt.
Arndt, okay. Very quickly, what is it that you do? Why is it that you do what you do? And why is it that you feel that competition, as of now, needs that UVP?
I've spent 20 years, of a 40-year career, serving multinational clients on 3 continents in about 10 industries, first with McKinsey & Company and then with the Boston Consulting Group. I then founded and led 4 entrepreneurial companies in biotech, technology, and in investment. And a couple of years ago, I sort of picked my nose up from the grindstone and said, what's going on in the world, what's happening, and came to the conclusion that India was a particularly attractive marketplace to apply my international business building, entrepreneurial, intellectual capital to working in, to assisting Indian companies with their natural entrepreneurial talent and skills and enormous desire to globalize, to actually globalize. And that's what Spira does.
That sounds very well, but what's the big challenge?
The big strategy is to introduce lessons learned from other industries, bring them to India, and apply them with Indian firms that need those skills in order to globalize their own businesses.
The tough part is the Indians are very poor learners, very poor listeners. They're very argumentative by nature.
My experience has been that Indians are really clever, very intelligent, and very fast off the starting blocks.
You'll do good business in India, right? Okay, Anup, very quickly. Harley Davidson sounds very good, very glamorous. What's your UVP?
Well, for us, you know, we pride ourselves in delivering the world's best customer experience. For us, it's about transforming the lives of our owners. And I know one of our customers is here on the stage, so he'll hold me accountable for it. But what for us, you know, we really do want to deliver a customer experience that is unique. And those are the unique activities which we align, so I'm looking forward to talking about that more.
You know, this word unique at times is a little overplayed. Experience, changing customers' experience is something we've heard time and again. What is it, that unique value proposition, that makes you beat competition, so to speak?
Sure. Well, for us, you know, we have a few things. I mean, I would say there's 3 very unique things we do specifically here in India. And we thought of this as we were entering the market. You have to look and see where you're playing. You know, we certainly operate in 70 markets around the world, but you have to also understand what the unique value proposition is to the customers you're facing today. And for us, there were really 3 things we wanted to do as we entered the market here. First was about accessibility. You know, the first thing everyone would say to us is we would be too exclusive, too expensive, out of reach for most people. And I think what you have to do is invest in accessibility. And what we did was 3 very specific things. The first thing we did was we brought a full product range from day one. And that's something most companies would not do that are in our space. The second thing we did was we invested right out of the blocks in assembly. CKD operations that were able to bring our price points down by almost 2 lakhs at the entry level. And I think that was very important. And then third, we actually advocated very much for our customers in setting up industry-leading finance partnerships with some leading banks that would give the most accessibility to customers who were buying on finance. And I think those are 3 very specific things we invested in around accessibility. The other thing that we own as a company, and I think anyone who wants to take on unique activities has to decide what territory they want to own. For us, there's 2 territories we own hands down, and that is camaraderie amongst our owners, and second is the opportunity for self-expression amongst our owners. And that comes through customization of your bikes, customization of your experiences, and customization of what you wear when you ride and who you ride with. And the camaraderie comes with bringing people together on a regular basis and investing in that camaraderie so that it does become a unique experience. It does change your life.
Whipple, Dow Chemicals. When you hear the name, unfortunately, it rings a bell. That bell is a bit of a noise. Now, coming as you do from a history which perhaps is not very ceremonious, yet you've been an outstanding company which is growing. So you're a unique case which is fighting history as well as geography.
Right. I think first and foremost you got to understand, I think we are fighting a history which we had never owned, operated, or done anything with it. It's a misconception which people carry. So I think we'll park that, because if you go into that detail, it'll probably take a few hours. But I think just for the audience, I think what you're referring is to the Union Carbide legacy in India, which is Bhopal. People need to understand that we acquired the company 17 years after the actual accident happened. 1989, there was a settlement between Union of India, Union Carbide, and UCIL, which is Union Carbide India Limited. We acquired shares of Union Carbide 12 years after that. 1994, Union Carbide actually divested from UCIL its shares and gave the funds of $90 million to build the hospital. We acquired 7 years after that. So when we acquired, Union Carbide had no assets or liability in the country. In 98, the site actually went in the Madhya Pradesh government. The UCIL even today exists in the country as a different name. So I think that's the history we need to park. Yes, we're fighting what I call a perception. It's highly emotive issue. As an Indian, as a chemical engineer, I feel for it. What happened shouldn't have happened. I mean, that's the worst industrial example. So having said that, Dow in India has been here since 1954. The actual accident we refer is 84. So we've been around for a long time. I'm actually a homegrown product. I joined Dow in 1988 in Mumbai and had the opportunity to work across the globe. Lived in Asia Pacific region, Europe, US, Singapore, as Southeast Asia region, and back to India. Half of my career has been at the helm of Dow in India. 1992, first time I became CEO for Dow. We were 10 million, 10 people. Today we are close to $1 billion company in the country with 1,000 employees. So we built our businesses. We built our businesses on a lot of values we bring to our customers, a lot of know-how we bring to our customers, a lot of application, customization which we do, which I think you talked about it as well from a value proposition standpoint. So I think that's what we do. It's a very different dynamic environment where we are in the country. There is not a single industry you will find where Dow product and services are not used in the country or in the world. That broad-based the company we are talking about. We have 5,000 products range. We are the largest breadth of company in a chemical industry.
What is it that makes you what you are? That's
Sorry?
the question. What is it that makes you what you are? What's your unique value proposition?
Our biggest unique value proposition as a company is our DNA of the company. We are a basic chemistry knowledge company. Dow has been around for 115 years. In fact, when you look at Fortune 100 companies today, handful of companies have survived 100 years in its own shape and size. So our basic chemistry know-how. How we apply that chemistry in today's world is very different. But the basic molecule of Dow is ethylene, propylene, and chlorine. And we build the company from there with the application knowledge.
Okay, it's good that you talked about perception, because we have Ashwini here. Who better to tell us about perception? Obviously, he's going to tell you what you did wrong. Also because he's driving a Harley, I'm told.
Ride a Harley.
So he's
So
done.
I can vouch for everything that Anup said.
It also tells you that he's done well in life. And of course, he's got this report which he's published, which will be a part of your kit. You must read it. And I want to quote something from this report, which is important. It's Charles Darwin's description of competitiveness when he talks about success in adapting themselves to the environment. Now, my question is it about adapting or about adopting? Because you've got a list of understanding winning strategies which you've got to adopt.
Well, so I won't bore you with the long list, the polls in the folder, so it'll make for an interesting read. Now, responsiveness, and I have a take on the subject of the value proposition, and I'll sort of try to qualify responsiveness. I don't believe in the unique value proposition theory per se, because in a flat world like ours, there is no uniqueness. And even if you find something unique, it gets copied very quickly, so that sort of advantage gets lost. So to build a business around unique value proposition, perhaps needs to be relooked at. But if you sort of looked at the theme that comes through, I think it's all about a relevant proposition, and then how companies pick what is relevant to their consumers and play that out and accentuate that, making it unique and compelling in that sense. If you think about Harley as a bike is a bike, and everybody rides, and there are different powers technology. Maybe there are better technology bikes than the Harley per se. But it's the riding experience that Harley focused on and brought to life in such a wonderful manner, better than anybody else. That's what makes Harley iconic in terms of its experience. Therefore, I think when you talk about responsiveness or adaptiveness, I think it's all about ability to understand what's changing in our world, in the world of our consumers or stakeholders when you look at it in the larger sense, and then how you quickly respond and react and make that relevant and compelling, which is forward-looking rather than being static. Now, you refer to the poll. Interestingly, in the poll, when you think about what creates financial competitiveness out of the top 4 factors, financials actually is number 4. And number 1 is actually what happens in the marketplace. What's your customer responsiveness? What's your customer competitiveness? And then comes what we call character of an organization, which is its basic values of ethics and governance and disclosure. So financials, eventually the poll, what's the poll telling you? That if you ain't responsive in the market, if you're not adapting to the change, then the market's going to change you.
Great. In the same breath, Ganesh, when you talk about, as what Ashwini is saying, that you've got to adapt yourself to the market, you've got to respond, which means if you're working in an environment that's dynamic, like yours, you've got to change yourself. Yet, over a long term, they say that the best way to have a UVP is to be consistent. So you've got a contradiction, something that's oxymoronic. Consistency versus change. How do you manage that?
See, first of all, I'd like to say that, I'm not a great believer in adapting yourself to markets, because I am a follower of the C.K. Prahalad theory of opportunity share, that if you can build a market, if you look at the iPods and the iPads, there was no market for an iPod, but they created it and sold the hell out of it and made it happen. To give you a very quick background, we started our company in 2001. 2001 was the worst time in the world to conceptualize a software company, because it was just after the dot-com bust, Osama bin Laden had happened, and so on and so forth. And people said, don't even try it. Or if you must do it, play with the small boys. Go after SMEs and go sell something where you're not competing with the IBMs and the Infosys. And we said, we will break 3 myths. We will only target the Fortune 100s and Fortune 200s. And we will come up with a different point of view and talk a language which will force people to listen. So, just to fast forward, this year we are 13th among the top 2,000 companies in India. We grew faster last year at 52% than any other company in this country. We should be over 2,000 crores, and 80% of our business is Fortune 500. The reason I'm saying this is, if you choose a point of view, to give you just one example, and I could go on, but just one example, when you look at the IT industry in India, you think of millions of people doing programming. And we said we won't do programming. We will build technology which will enable an idea to be conceptualized, converted to a design, and automated in terms of programming. I still remember when we first went and talked to Marks and Spencer about it, the CIO told me, oh yeah, and pigs will fly one day. But the fact of the matter is we could demonstrate time and again that it is possible. Similarly, one last example, you look at strategy. The common wisdom would say strategy is always top-down, the CEO is a visionary, there's a shared vision, etc., etc. In our company, and in fact I have a very young colleague who's from IIT Kharagpur, Indian School of Business, who runs what is called Vision Community in Zensar. Vision Community is a completely bottom-up approach to strategy. We take the brightest minds from the IITs, from the ISBs and the IIMs, and say, you guys come up with a point of view which is different. And believe me, 80% of the success we've got is because of young 20 and 30-year-olds defining strategy and for us to support that strategy.
So basically you have a strategy in place, and it's different. So you're creating an innovation within your strategy. That's to go democratic, go bottom up, as well as allow people to grow. So there is a strategy within that entire
absolutely.
strategy.
Yeah. It's just a different strategy.
Right. And of course, pigs fly, but as Pink Floyd concert will always tell you, they're the guys who can do it for you. Very simply, I heard also somebody in the panel before this say a very critical point. That was the essence of not doing, which is as important or perhaps even more important than doing. Now, there are cases where people have refrained from doing certain things, and that's been consistent and served them well to beat competition who made those errors of doing those things. you tell us something about that?
If I understand the question correctly, you're posing the notion that not doing a particular thing is as important as doing something else.
That's right. And if you don't do that, you beat competition which actually did those errors. That's what I'm saying.
I guess, in my experience around the world and in those dozen or so industries that I've served clients and built my own companies, there's a fairly short list of things you just don't ever do if you're going to be successful, and especially if you're going to build rapport with and credibility with clients and customers. And I think that the core of that message is you just never violate your core values, the things that you bring to the party, the things that you learned at, to be kind of euphemistic about it, your mother's knee. But it's sometimes in an organization which is so dedicated to that notion that it becomes your lifeblood. If you're a U.S. Marine, if you're a priest in the Catholic Church, if you're a young associate at McKinsey & Company, there's just things you just don't ever do to violate those core values. Those core values, in my experience, have always revolved around things like customers and clients first. Always, everything else comes second. And your goal is to build to build a business engine that allows you to deliver sustainable competitive advantage, to use an old hackneyed expression,
Right.
that gives or has the potential to concede more value or more value added to your clients or your customers than anybody else, downturn, upturn, or in any situation. And certainly vis-a-vis whatever competition you've articulated or identified against you. So whatever that package of features, quality, service, whatever they are that you've identified that are important for your core targeted client or customer base, less the cost of creating it,
Sure.
is that value added. And you just never do anything that's going to compromise your ability to maximize that, not optimize it, maximize it,
right.
for your clients and customers. So
Right.
that's kind of a general response, but I think it gets to the issue.
Yeah, the point taken. Anup, something of your experience with your company in terms of certain things you refrained from doing categorically that was a typical no-no, or some mistakes you made, you learned very quickly and got up on your feet and changed that.
Well, I'll give you a global example. You know, one of the unique things about our market entry into India was this is the first market where Harley-Davidson entered as a wholly owned subsidiary from day one. And I think we all know when you come into any new market and you decide you're going to do a JV, or maybe you're going to find a distributor locally, you're immediately diluting your ability to deliver on what you deliver best in your home market. And I think Harley-Davidson had learned over time that whenever they had found a distributor, there was always some repair that they had to do in that market when it came to their brand or the value proposition. And for India being a very important future market and a very important market where we wanted to set the things right from day one and not choose to find a distributor who was going to undercut the brand and undercut the customer experience, we decided to make all of those investments on the front end. So that's a big lesson learned that changed the strategy, that allowed us to align against the customer experience, which is the unique value proposition we're hoping to deliver.
Vipul, of course, making mistakes, learning from them is very important, and doing it quickly is, of course, more important. But certain times, you know, in the history of a company, a life cycle of a company, we feel that the company is making mistakes in the short term. But actually, by persevering with what they're doing, it works out, and in the long term, they're actually doing something that's right. It just evolutes and evolves. Is there something about your company you'd like to tell us?
I think there are a few things. I mean, if you look at the fashions in the early 80s where everybody thought in our verticals, you got to go all the way to the refining. Yeah. And we went into that, and then suddenly you realize you don't have the expertise to compete with the Exxons and the Shells of the world. And you divest quickly out of that. We went into pharma. I mean, little known fact is, people don't realize aspirin was invented by Dow Chemical Company. and we went into the pharma. It's the same logic where you do something which it doesn't work.
You said aspirin,
Yeah.
which gives us a headache.
Yeah, releases the headache for you. it's a life-saving drug if you are getting a heart attack. So, I mean, it's something which was there. So there are things you do. We also ventured into Dow Brands because if you look at application side, I mean, no company can match the application capabilities. Whether you're using shampoo for your head, or polish for your shoes, or drinking clean potable water, or packaging food and keeping food preserved. So we ventured in those aspects of it. Couldn't survive. Cut your losses, get out, sold it off to Kimberly-Clark. So I think those are things which we do. We experiment for different models, but I think you end up coming to your core strength.
That's the value learned. I mean, it's all at the core. Ashwini, of course, if there's anybody who knows perception, or misperception for that matter, it's you. Now, talk us through experiences when I talk about something you shouldn't do. It's typically you shouldn't get into a position where there's crisis management. So how do you manage a crisis, and how do you manage not getting into a crisis?
I think the oft sort of repeated quote about honesty is the best policy is actually quite true in a crisis. And I think you've seen this across the world today, that people who rapidly accept the fact that they did make a mistake and then make an honest effort to get it right or make amends or make good, eventually come back in favor. Otherwise, given the over-communicated society that we live in and the rapid way information flows today, you can be punished very severely for getting it wrong. And one's not saying or arguing the fact that people don't get it wrong. In a corporation which has 2,000 people to 20,000 people, somebody will make a mistake and things will go wrong. Often my experience has been, because things go wrong, people want to shut it down, people want to hide it, or actually almost deny it, the fact that something's going wrong with them. And when you ignore some things like these over a period of time, these become crises and then absolutely go out in the public domain.
Ganesh, something that you'd like to share with us, something that you didn't work out, you changed, or something you persevered with, irrespective of everybody around you saying you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be democratic, you shouldn't go bottom up, but you still stuck to it and did well.
No, I'd just like to take a point from our industry itself. I mean, as most of you are probably aware, we get beaten up because there are not too many products coming out of India. People say, why are you guys just being services? And it's true that for the many, many years, in fact, I was delighted to hear the Red Bus story here, because only today there are entrepreneurs being very, very focused on what they should do. So to take a point, very long time we had good product entrepreneurs, came up with a great idea. They got kind of carried away by somebody saying, oh, by the way, can you put 40 people and do this service for us, which is $1 million. $1 million looks great if you're an Indian. But I think what is happening today is people are having the conviction that let us stick to the knitting, decide what we want to do, and really stick with it for the next many years. I think if there's part of our success, it's because of being able to say no to multiple opportunities. And your first question, the ability to say no, the ability to say this is not what we want to do, and we'll stay focused, is what creates great companies. And I think a lot of Indian entrepreneurs need to learn from that lesson.
Great. As always, we're out of time. Journalists are never short of words, but well, we've got to be shorter than this time round. Very quickly, I'll ask you for one word which would define your UVP, your proposition, or your ability to beat competition in what you do. Right? I've given you a lot of time to think about it. You don't have time, please. Just one word.
Intellectual capital.
Intellectual capital. Anup.
Throttle.
Sorry?
Throttle.
All right.
Bringing solution to today's needs of the world.
7 words, sir. 1 word.
Solution.
Solution.
Fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Ganesh.
Breakthrough.
All right. So you've got 5 words you can mull over. And perhaps if you imbibe that in your life cycle of your company, you'll do well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us and being a part of this show. And we'd like Himanshu Jain, MD of CLED, to come and do the honors. Thank you very much, sir. Have you all swapped cards? Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Okay, for those of you who thought that my job is over, it isn't. Sorry, you've got to bear up with me for a little more. Okay, I noticed that perhaps 85% of the populi here would be over the age of 50. Am I wrong? All right, you're not in that half. So, let me ask you another question, one of my favorites. Is it true when you say that the older you get, the richer you get? Is it true that when they say that the older you get, the richer you get? Anybody who disagrees with that? You disagree with that, Vipul? All right, anybody else? Well, the fact of the matter is that the older you get, the richer you get. Because the older you get gold in your teeth, silver in your hair, precious stones in your kidneys, and a huge supply of natural gas. Now, what happens when you get old? The ethos is that you give in, you succumb. But when you get old, you also give back to society. And what is old of old is now the new. And the new ethos is that when you start by giving. And you give back to society what you got from it. You share your values. It's not on, CSR is not only corporate social responsibility. It's also about CSR. C is in communities, S is in sharing, and R as in reinforcing your products and realigning them to serve those shared values. More on that. Let's have our next panel. Siva Nagarajan, Managing Director of Mother Dairy. My favorite, Bhaskar Chatterjee, DG and CEO of IICA. Niren Chaudhary, President Yum India, another wonderful spokesperson. Pawan Maini, Managing Director, India, CH2M Hill. Manfred Heiberg, Director, Private Sector Development, GIZ. And Shrikant Javalkekar, Managing Director and CEO of MCX. And of course, we have Melissa Scott, consultant with the FSG, to moderate that. Thank you so much, gentlemen and ma'am, for coming over. Proud. Amit, we'd like you on stage as well. All right, you had the big time. This is the second big time. We've heard Professor Porter. Well, let's hear what his prizes have to say. We've got the IFC Mint Strategy Awards. There are 12 of them. And the categories, of course, are several, but we're just going to announce these awards the way they are. And then, after that, we've got 7 very exclusive Porter Prize Awards. Well, the first award, this is not in any order of proficiency. It, I guess, is in alphabetical order. The first award, the first IFC Mint Strategy Award, goes to Apollo Gleneagles for healthcare. We'd like Rupali Basu, the CEO, to come over and accept the award. And we'd like Rajan Gupta to please come on stage. Professor Gupta, please. All right, I think it's important to call the guests first. So I'd like Mr. Ajit Prasad also to come on stage for the next award. The next award for food and beverage goes to Cargill. And we'd like the CEO, Siraj Chaudhary, to come on stage, please. Mr. Prasad. Do we have Mr. Siraj Chaudhary here? All right, I'd like Mr. Anurag Batra to come on stage for the next award. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and thank you, Mr. Prasad. All right, our third award for arts, entertainment, and recreation. And this goes to Cinepolis. Milan Seni, the CEO, is requested to come on stage. Our fourth award for industry. This time it's Ingersoll Rand. And we'd like Venkatesh Valuri, the CEO, to please come up and accept the award. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Batra. We'd like Mr. B.V. Rao to come on stage as well for the next award. Mr. Rao. The next award for construction, real estate and steel. This goes to Mahindra Life Spaces. We'd like Anita Ranjan Das, the CEO, to come on stage, please. Thank you very much, Anita. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. We'd like Ashwini Singla now to come on stage. And our next award, number 6, for education, training, and educational services. It's metal. And we'd like Tonmoy Shingal to come up and accept the award. Tonmoy, thanks. Ashwini, thanks so much for being here. Thanks, yeah. We'd like Gaurav Mittal to come on stage, the next award. The next award for tourism and hospitality goes to Orange County. And we'd like Jose Ramachandran to come up and accept the award.
Here's my key, philosophy. A freak like me just needs
Gaurav Mittal in the house. Could we have John Blomquist, please? Is John here? John Blomquist, please. The next award.
Relax. Take your time. Take your time to trust in me.
All right, the next award for transportation, logistics, and aviation. And this goes to Red Bus, Fanindra Sama, the CEO. The next award for industrial and chemicals goes to Sealed Air, Himanshu Jain. Thank you very much, John, for being with us. Thank you very much, John. We'd like Roger Wright to come on stage, please. Roger. All right. Our next award for finance, banking and insurance. And this goes to SIDBI, Sushil Manhot. Thanks very much, Roger. Thank you very much. Thanks, Roger. Thank you very much. Could we have Shondeep Das on stage, please? Is Shondeep Das in the house? All right, our next award for food and beverage. And if it's food, it's got to be yum. Niren Chaudhary. Is Niren here? I request Mr. Vipul Shah to come on stage, please? And our final award, our final IFC Mint Strategy Award for Information, Media, Telecom and Data Processing goes to Zensa Ganesh Natarajan.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's obviously not Ganesh.
Yeah, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, those were 12 of the IFC Mint Strategy Awards. Now, for the coveted Potter Prize, there are 7 of them, once again, various categories, but we're going to give them as a one corporate house. The first Potter Prize goes to, once again, this is alphabetical order, Bharti Airtel, CEO K. Srinivas. Can I request Mr. Srikanth Javalgekar to come on stage, please, for the next award? All right. The next award, the next Potter Prize goes to HDFC Life, Amitabh Chaudhary. The next award, can I call Wahid on stage, please? Our next Potter Prize goes to, if HDFC is there, ICICI has got to be there. ICICI Lombard, Bhargav Das Gupta. Thank you very much, Wahid. Can I ask John Blomquist to come on stage again, please? Award number 4, Potter Prize, goes to Mother Dairy, Siva Nagarajan. All right. Potter Prize number 5 goes to Mahindra Finance, Ramesh Iyer. you very much, John. Thank you for being with us. John, thank you very much. We'd like Mr. Vipul Shah to come on stage, please, for the next award. Mr. Shah. All right, the penultimate Potter Prize goes to Make My Trip, Deep Kalra. Now for our final award, I'd like Mr. Roger Wright to come on stage, please. And our final award for health, care and healthcare, Vatsalya, Ashwin Nayak. All right, one final big round of applause for all our winners. Wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us. All right. Could we have all the Potter Prize winners on stage, please? Sorry about that. It'll just help you get more hungry for dinner. Let's put a photo op. Thank you very much for the trouble.
Can we have Mike Porter on the back screen, please? Can we have Mike Porter here?
Can we have Professor Mike Porter on the back screen, please? To keep constant in a world that is change, and the world that is changing dramatically and interestingly. Consistency in a changing environment. You know, I devised a theory for that consistency. How do you study it on the various economies of the world? First, you have a traditional economy. It's called the cow theory, the theory of cows. The first thing you have is a traditional economy where you have two cows. You sell one cow, you trade it for a bull. The bull and the cow, they mate, the herd multiplies, the economy grows, you retire on the income. Right? That's traditional economics. Then you have Indian economics. When you have two cows, you sell one cow, retire your debt, and worship the other cow. Then you have Pakistani economics. They have no cows, and they claim all Indian cows are their cows. American economics. They have two cows, they sell one cow, milk the other cow 4 times than normal, and profess surprise when the cow drops dead. British economics. They have two cows, and they're both mad cows. Italian economics. They have two cows, they can't find those cows, they break for lunch. Then you have Chinese economics. You have two cows. You sell one cow, use 300 people to milk the other cow, claim full productivity, high bovine activity, full employment, and arrest anybody who reports the right figure. It's typical Chinese economics. Then you have the Middle East economics, where you have two cows, You asked the Americans and the British to protect those cows. The Americans and the British, they kill those cows, eat those cows, return the bones, say sorry, and promise 2 F-16s in return. Then finally, you have the Sri Lankan economics. We have 2 cows, you sell those cows, get 2 bulls. You make one the president, the other the leader of the opposition, and they forget to eat grass and they eat the country. That's the theory of economics, which tells you that how things change over various economies, but you still got to be consistent in your approach when you compete. Rohit Bansal, our next speaker from the Institute of Competitiveness. Rohit?